I think, unfortunately, as we have spoken more to law enforcement officials here in Europe, there is an expectation that the trends we saw in 2015 will continue into 2016, increasing concern about the threat posed by individuals who are inspired by extremist ideologies, are either able to mask their communication with terrorist organizations or simply don't communicate at all with them and operate independently. Growing concerns that people may prepare for attacks operating under the radar of our traditional counterterrorism detection capabilities, but that doesn't mean that their behaviors aren't being noticed. And while there's been a lot of talk about if you see something, say something, which is a campaign that I was involved in while I was at DHS, which has had great success in helping to disrupt plots across the country when people have picked up the phone and they've called local authorities or they've called the FBI about things of concern and they've been investigated. There is a growing model, which you will hear more about in the coming months. There's a model beginning to develop in localities across the country where local law enforcement, working with local educators and local mental health professionals and local communities, are building the capacity to not only exchange information regarding emerging threats to the community, whether it be from violent extremism, from school shooters, gang violence, but also to exchange information about warning signs that the problem is developing in the community. But it's more than that. It's about building the capacity within your local agencies to assess the risk posed by an individual who are exhibiting these behaviors. And again, that's collaboration between law enforcement, mental health, and others. So it's not enough just because somebody's exhibiting behaviors does not mean they're necessarily going down the pathway to violence. But through some of the research and analysis that's been done over the past several years that you've heard about today, there is a growing awareness about how to determine whether somebody exhibiting those behaviors represents a risk to the community or doesn't. Third, it's developing the capacity within your community to develop and implement intervention strategies. Maybe the person hasn't gone down the path far enough that they've committed a criminal act or that they can be subject to arrest and prosecution. But we have learned as we have dealt with issues like gang violence, school shootings, and we're beginning to see this in the area of CVE, that there are opportunities when law enforcement works again with mental health to identify opportunities where some type of intervention effort, some type of effort that addresses the underlying causes, why this person is traveling down the path to violence, and addresses those core issues, you can prevent violence that way. And finally, reevaluation of the individual. We want to be able to detect or see whether what we're doing is working or whether things are occurring in that person's life that present a greater risk to the community.